Just need to work for it. Just need to put your mind to it. This industry is so accessible.
You're watching Local Insiders Digital Jobs. We spoke with digital industry professionals in Camden, Hackney, Islington and Tower Hamlets to understand the different pathways to finding digital jobs. Amos Mukombero in conversation with Medua Okonta, presented by Lyft and Good Growth Hub. How's it going, Med? Do you want to introduce yourself? Tell us a bit about what you do for work.
Yeah, all good, man. I grew up in Islington, not too far from here. What I do for work is UX design. Been doing that for about just over 10 years now.
Amazing. Design, that's an interesting concept. So for people that are watching and that don't understand, could you just elaborate on what design is and what kind of design that you actually do?
What I have been doing for the past few years is digital product design. So any website, any app or products that you use is designed essentially by a whole team, including designers, UI designers, UX designers, product strategists, engineers. There's a massive team that goes into building these products. What I do is more on the UX side, so that's more about laying the foundation of how someone like you uses a digital product, like whether it's Instagram or TikTok or anything like that. It's about laying those foundations of how you go through that app or website and use it essentially.
And when you say UX, what does that stand for?
User experience. User experience isn't something you can necessarily design. It's obviously your experience with whatever you're using, right?
Are there any recent projects that you've worked on that you're most proud of?
Agency that I'm at, we work with Google quite a lot. One of the more recent things we've done with them is Grow with Google, which is it's a website where anybody can go to learn digital skills.
What company is it that you work for?
Beyond.
Yeah. It's crazy, how like UX is something that we use every day, and I guess as a normal person, like it's a term that I wouldn't necessarily know of. What 3 essential skills would you say are needed for your job?
I would say communication and presentation. Since I work in an agency, we have to present to clients all the time. So presenting your ideas about the decisions you made and essentially trying to take them along a journey of why you've made those decisions. Communication, presentation, also collaboration. We work with massive teams. Obviously, like I said before, I work as a UX designer, we work with UI designers, engineers, and so on. And lastly, an eye for detail. So just making sure that you know what's going on. You're the person that has essentially control about things that you're putting out. So making sure that everything that you're putting out is right.
Have you always had like a passion for design, creativity? What pathway did you take to get into your current role?
Yeah, passion is a strong word. I always say to people, like with UX, I usually say I'm fascinated with design. But my path was fairly straightforward, to be honest. I went from school, I always liked drawing, I always liked design in that sense. In uni, I did a graphic design course. But then when I left uni, I started to get more into UX, like the books that I was reading was more along those lines.
What kind of like challenges have you faced within your career and how have you overcome those challenges?
Firstly, finding that first role, that was difficult. And again, that was all about who I knew rather than being too much about how good I was. Another one was when I finally got into the industry, it always felt like, well, at times, it was difficult to fit in, let's say. So feeling like an outsider, if that makes sense, and just trying to make sure that you're always thinking about it, to be honest, and that imposter syndrome, that was one of the biggest things that affected me.
I'm curious to know, do you have any like hobbies or interests that either help you with your role or that allow you to get the balance between work and life?
I do. So I do boxing, been doing that on and off since I was about 15. So obviously, when I'm at work, I'm sitting down at a computer all day, so I'm not active as much as I need to be.
And I guess with boxing, you have to use your mind at very fast speeds and time. Would you say that's similar in your work as well? Like fast decision making?
Definitely. It's one of the things I've had trouble with, to be honest, early on in my career, decision making. But it's definitely one of the things that if you can learn that skill, if you can hone it, you can really go far.
Amazing. Are there any misconceptions about your role that you didn't know about before you started, or are there things that people say about your role that aren't true?
Yeah, in my role, in my industry in general, you might have the idea that everyone's an expert and everyone knows what they're doing, but it's not like that at all. Everyone that I know, once you start to dig a little bit deeper and have conversations with them, they're all still trying to figure it out. Same thing as you, or same thing as me. So yeah, that's the biggest misconception, I would say.
Could you please elaborate on how your network has helped you professionally with your career and also personally?
Professionally, like I was saying, I got my first role through someone in my network, one of my older brother's friends, to be honest. So I was doing design work on the side, kind of just doing designs for people, mixtape covers, business cards, that kind of thing, logos and all of that. One of my brother's friends reached out to me. He was doing a freelance role somewhere, but he got another role somewhere else. So he had to fill that void. He had to find someone to take over that current role. And he reached out to me, asked me if I could do it, asked me if I had time. I was like, yeah, jumped at the chance. And from there, never really looked back. After I finished uni, I didn't have anything on my CV. I didn't do an internship or anything like that. So it was difficult to get a job. Just couldn't find anything. Obviously, no experience, no jobs. So from there, I started to make sure I was brushing up on design work all the time. But again, I was still working part-time, and that turned into a full-time job. But I was still interested in design, so I was still reading things about it, still learning, still designing little bits and pieces here and there. So I spoke about how I got my first role. After that, like I said, the door was wide open. I finally had something on my CV, so I was easily able to jump into my next role. And that was all about just making sure that your portfolio is together, making sure that you're telling the right stories for the job that you want to get, rather than the job that you've got. You have to essentially speak to the hiring manager in your CV and in your portfolio and tell them or show them like why you'd be good for the role and the experience that you've got to take it on.
In regards to your younger self, what would you tell your younger self to open that door, earlier?
I would say you just need to work for it. Just need to put your mind to it. This industry is so accessible in the fact that you don't necessarily need a degree. You don't necessarily need a qualification to actually build a career. You can learn on your own. There's so many resources out there, and yeah, you just need to put your head down and learn and kind of build yourself up that way.
No, I love that. Just so they know, like, in regards to years in which you were at uni to where you're at now, what's the time span in that?
Ooh. So I graduated uni in 2006, and I've been in this industry for about 10 years. It's a long time. So I feel like even at my age, I am not as far as I could have been if I left uni and got a job straight away. So there are people that are a lot younger than me at the same position, if that makes sense. So,
but I guess with that, circumstances are now different as well, isn't it? Like tech's like exploded, and
exactly.
So you need to be more resourceful.
The tech industry is exploding. It's always going to be big, even with new tools like AI. It won't necessarily take over people's jobs, but the people that can learn to use it in their roles are the ones that are going to be the most marketable. And in terms of getting into this career, there's quite a few free internships and online courses that you can do to help build up your skills. But you just always got to work, man. Always got to work. Do work for friends. See who one of your friends got a business, do their logo, do their website, that kind of thing.
That helps us to conclude this episode. Thank you so much for watching. If you're watching, make sure you check out the other episodes if you haven't done so already. And yeah, we'll see you on the next walk. Peace out. This video has been presented by Lift and Good Growth Hub, supported by Mayor of London, in partnership with Camden, Hackney, Islington and Tower Hamlets Borough Council. Creative direction and visuals by Walk with Amos and Us Man Dare. Lift supports people from underrepresented backgrounds living in Camden, Hackney, Islington and Tower Hamlets to find jobs and training in the tech, creative and science sectors. For more information, visit www.liftfutures.london.